Typically, when we think about our career trajectory and our career growth, we are kind of growing. If you look at time on the x-axis and growth on the y-axis, we get in a new job role, or you get promoted, or you start your own business, and we think that our growth is going to go on a linear path, like that ladder model of years past, that you pick something and stick with it. And for some of you, that may be the case. It's not to rule out that some people can stay in one job for a very long time, but often they're pivoting within that company. I interviewed one person for the book who started at the FBI, and over the course of 26 years, he pivoted 13 times within the FBI and ultimately ended up as the head of cybersecurity for the FBI through a series of his own pivots internally. So no matter what, no matter whether we're changing jobs or changing companies or just changing our own direction within our own business, typically we're growing, and there comes a point where we hit a pivot point and we start to sense that the future will be a bit of a plateau. How do you know when you're at a plateau? Sometimes it's a slight whisper that says, "Psst, there's more out there for you." Sometimes it's a feeling of just works fine, slight boredom, dissatisfaction, phoning it in. But if you don't pay attention to the plateau, or maybe you may already be in this state of decline, or have experienced this in the past, often if we don't pay attention to the pivot point or take action and respond to it, our body starts to send us physical signals to make a change. For example, you might be getting sick more often. I had a friend who was getting panic attacks every time she got off the subway on her way to work. For me, there was a moment at Google. I had back-to-back meetings, and I almost fainted. So I found myself laying on the floor of a phone room, unable to even pick up the phone above me and cancel my next meeting. At this point, our choice is to pivot. And pivots always involve some amount of risk, but they're not reckless, and we're not starting from scratch. So I'm going to share more about what a pivot means in a moment. But I'll just say that when I was at Google, I was there as the company grew from 6,000 employees to 36,000 employees. And I trained over 1,000 people in my first year there. And so a lot of people would come to me and say, what I came in the company to do, I'm ready for something different. And in fact, when I started at Google, there was no career development team. It was formed halfway through my tenure there as a response to this, to help people pivot internally and continue creating growth trajectories within the company, because this was such a natural phenomenon that if you hire high net growth individuals, people, the best and the brightest, if you hire people who really want to make an impact, they are going to get impatient when they feel stalled, and they're not willing to stay stalled for long.